I love filming things, taking my camera wherever I go to capture those cool moments when they present themselves. But when it comes to the edits, it feels like the footage doesn't really connect. You kind of just have these random clips of different things. You're not alone, it happens to me too. And today I'm going to share a simple formula that works in any location or any scene to ensure that you capture just the right amount of footage to create a cohesive story. It's a simple concept that when you don't have a clear plan or idea and you kind of just want to throw it together in the edit. Instead of just telling you how to do it, I'm going to actually demonstrate it and film a little scene here in the warehouse. And after we film it, I'm going to show you what that finished edit actually looks like. And here's a little teaser. Pretty cool, right? So let's get straight into how I like to ensure I capture just the right amount of shots for any scene and any location. Starting off with filming in sequences rather than individual shots. So instead of capturing a whole bunch of random different clips of things that you see that are interesting, we like to film in sequences that have somewhat of a chronological order so that you can cut them together and you have a bit of a story flow within your video. It can be something as simple as if I wanted to come and make this cup of coffee, I'm gonna just get a few different angles and shots, which we're gonna cover in the next tips. And I might just get one wide of me making the coffee, then a different shot of me having the coffee, and then a different shot of me maybe walking away and getting to a different place. This just allows me to unfold my scene, giving it a bit of a follow through rather than just random clips placed together here and there. The next thing I want to do is capture some sort of establishing shot. Any good video provides context. So I want to show the viewer where we are so that they have a good understanding of the environment that our subject is actually in. I'll usually do this by shooting on something like a 16 to 35mm lens, getting a super wide field of view and getting those big open shots kind of revealing that entire scene. If you have something even wider, that's totally fine too. And note that you don't have to open your video with an establishing shot. You can do other things where you don't reveal the scene, keep that establishing shot for later and just build up some suspense. But I'll always capture 1 or 2 or 3 establishing shots of that scene, ensuring that I do have some context for the viewer to have a good understanding of where we actually are. Next up, we have the medium shot. This is where once we've provided some context to the viewer, we want to actually start providing them with some actions. So what's happening within your scene? Maybe it's a kind of medium shot of your subject doing the thing that you're showing, making a cup of coffee. It's up to you how you want to frame your medium shots, and it's a whole art form in itself. If you want to go for the slightly wider type, something like this one, or you want to get the exact same shot but slightly more zoomed in, that is totally up to you. But basically we want to focus on capturing the actions and the things that are actually happening in your video through our medium shots. Just think to yourself, what is this little scene actually about? What's happening in this part of your video? This is where we want to capture all of those things, making sure we get a variety and making sure that we remember to still shoot in sequences. If this means performing the same action a few times with a few different angles, which you can pick between and cut between in the edit, that is exactly what you should be doing. Next up, and one of my favorites, is to give the viewer some details. So let's go into our close-ups. Now, regardless of what video you're shooting, if you have your nice big wides and your mediums, we want to further emphasize the details that are happening in our scene to show the viewer. Think of it like this. The viewer is only going to see what you really show them on that screen. And although while you're in this environment, you might be noticing all sorts of details, when someone's watching on a little screen, they're not really going to see much other than what you're showing them. So in big wides, they're going to see that entire scene as a big whole one image. And in mediums, they're going to notice the action or the subject. We want to show them the details in our environment that make it feel the way it does. Look out for whatever's going on in your scene and try and notice certain details that are elements of interest or things that make your scene just feel kind of how it is. I maybe want to get some close-ups of this camera or the coffee machine. Don't even worry about creating too much movement in these shots. For the most part, they can be little lock-off shots, just really focusing on those details and providing further depth for the viewer that's going to be watching that video. I'll usually shoot these shots like pretty zoomed in. Maybe I'm going to be shooting at something like 75 to really show those details. You don't have to have a zoomed in lens, and you can use a wider lens like a 35mm and just get really nice and close up into those actions and really captivate that viewer with those beautiful little details. At this point, you surprisingly already have like a complete video, or what some might call complete coverage, providing you with enough content of any particular scene that you could put together a cohesive story. But there are two more things that I like to do in every video that I create, and they're arguably the most fun two different things that you can do to elevate your content. Speaking of elevating your content, a bonus tip is to use something like voiceovers in your stories. If you haven't planned them at all, this is a great way that after the fact, after you've captured everything, you can get some sort of story and pull it out of whatever footage you have. Today's video is sponsored by Motion Array, and they just recently launched an entire AI voiceover catalog, which means you can literally just type in whatever that story or element of voiceover that you want to create, put it in, choose from their different catalog of all these different style voices, and then it will literally generate it within seconds.
Do you ever feel like the creative possibility is endless? An overwhelming sense of potential?
You can choose to animate it in different ways with some of these controlling factors that they have. Motion Array doesn't only offer voiceovers though, they have a whole lot of other elements to elevate your content. Whether it's motion graphics, text animations, overlays for cool kind of style and effects on your videos, they have the whole bunch. They're a complete platform for creators that do want to take their content to a whole nother level, and I would highly recommend checking them out. They were kind enough to hook us up with some little discounts, and if you want to find out anything more about Motion Array, you can check out the link down below to get access to things like the AI voice generator, as well as their massive library and catalog of all the other cool motion assets that you can use in your videos. The next and one of the most fun shots that you can capture is the creative shot. This is anything that you can put into your video to just break up that visual monotony, being creative and making something that just stands out. You have to hook the viewer. Having just one or two of these in your video can make it completely stand out and grasp that viewer's attention. A creative shot can rarely be anything, and there's no clear path of how you want to achieve this. It's up to you to go wild with your creativity and come up with anything that is going to completely break that visual monotony within your video and make the viewer just go, wow, that was cool. It could be something as simple as a POV shot that shows a weird, unique perspective. Maybe it's just a top-down of your environment or your subject in that environment, some weird and unique framing, or maybe it's a super immersive angle that just doesn't look like any of those other shots. See how you can just create a few of these within your video to keep them highly engaging and entertaining for the viewers that are going to be watching them. Next up, in the second of my two favorite bonus things that you can shoot is to get some form of cutaway. This is to safeguard ourselves to ensure that if some of our shots that we captured with our initial 3 shots don't flow cohesively next to each other, we can use one of our cutaways in between them to ensure that you can still play those shots in the order of sequence that you wanted them to be in. This can just be any sort of like little detail or element of interest within your environment that you can slot between other shots if not everything goes perfectly to plan. I like to, again, just look out for little different elements that make this place feel the way it does and capture little details or cutaways of those. Cutaways can also be larger shots like mediums and establishing shots, but it's generally things that are not of your main subject or story, and rather things in the surrounding environment that you can put between your main story as it kind of unfolds. So that's for the most part how I like to capture a scene of anything if I have absolutely no plan, but I still want something to be super cohesive. Just as promised, let's take a look at how I actually put together the little scene that we filmed here in the warehouse using this exact formula and you can be the judge if you think it's cool or not. Other than that, remember to check out Motion Array down in the description, and I'll see you in the next one. Have fun. Bye.
Do you ever feel like the creative possibility is endless? An overwhelming sense of potential with no limit other than your own mind.